and welcome to our virtual gardening program. My name's Diane Jaroch, and I'm the Assistant Director and Adult Services Librarian at the Irvin L. Young Memorial Library in Whitewater, Wisconsin. Welcome, and today we're going to talk about taking care of your houseplants, especially in winter. Really important that you give your plants a little more care in the winter. The first thing they need is plenty of sunshine. Unfortunately, our days are short, so there isn't as much sunshine for them or for us. So what you want to do is follow the sun. You may need to move your plants to your sources of sunlight. Some good sources of sunlight are the west and south windows. This room I'm in, I have sunlight on both sides. Unfortunately, it's not west and south, it is north and south. So there is sun all day long until it sets, so that's a benefit for all of my plants. So don't be afraid to move your plants just for the winter so that they can get plenty of sun. And remember that every time you water your plants, you want to turn them so that they get the full benefit of the sun. So back to sunlight. What else can we do to make sure our plants get plenty of sunlight? You can make sure that the windows are clean, both on the inside and the outside. That way there won't be any dirt on the windows to filter in the sunlight. Another thing to do, make sure the leaves of your plants are nice and clean. Believe it or not, they will absorb the sunshine better if they aren't dirty and dusty. And you're thinking, what's the best way to clean my plants? Well, there are a couple ways you can do that. One way, if your plants aren't too large and you don't have too many, you can take them to your kitchen sink or you can take them to your shower and you can spray them with the shower head or with your little spray at the sink. They really love that. If your leaves are extremely dirty and you think they need a little more than water, don't hesitate to mix a mixture of detergent and water. For that, you would want 1/4 tablespoon of dish detergent to a quart of water. And then you would just wash your leaves off and make sure that you spray them off really well to get that soap off. Another easy way is simply with a damp, soft cloth. Just get that soft cloth damp and wipe the leaves. I have a soft cloth here. Another thing, if you want your leaves to be really shiny and clean, is to get a mixture of milk and water. Half milk, half water. Use your soft cloth, clean the leaves off. I'll give you a little demonstration. I have this plant right here. If you can see, it's pretty dusty. Those shiny leaves there are leaves that I cleaned just before this program, but they're really dirty and dusty. We're going to take our soft cloth, and this is just a sock, an old sock I had. It's nice and soft. I'm going to put it on my hand like a puppet, and I'm just going to dip my fingers into my milk and water solution, and then we are just going to clean off a dusty leaf. And you just hold it. You want to be gentle, of course. Get that dust and dirt off. I'm going to dry it a little bit with the dry part. And you can see how clean and shiny that is. Now I'm going to have to do all of them so that my plant can get plenty of sunlight. Once you have your leaves all cleaned off, if they get a little dusty, just take a real soft cloth or even one of the Swiffer duster things and give them a light dusting and they'll be happy. Then they'll be able to absorb that sunshine really well. Now, in addition to sunshine, plants also need water. But did you know that in the winter, they actually need less water than they do in the spring and summer and fall? And that's because they aren't growing very much during the winter. They're very slow growing, and some of your plants might even be dormant in the winter. So they don't need as much water as you think. And you might be looking at your plants and thinking, oh, they're really dry. I just watered them a few days ago. Very true. The top of your plants, the topsoil, might look dry, but what you need to do is to dig down a little deeper. Stick your finger into the dirt or take a stick, bamboo stick, popsicle stick, anything, and check and see if they're wet down below, because you don't want to overwater. Unfortunately, I did that. I made that mistake. And I can show you right here. This pot had 2 succulents in it. As you can see, this one is completely dead, and this one, the leaves are all coming off. I thought that it was dry. I failed to do the test to look down further, and I overwatered it. I'm hoping it might bounce back, but I kind of think it's not going to. It does not look good at all. So don't overwater your plants. Be sure that just because they look dry, that they aren't dry underneath. You don't want to rot the roots. To water your plants, again, you can take them to the sink. A really good thing is to take them to the sink, especially if you have plants that are in saucers. Take them off the saucer, take them to the sink, get them really wet, let the water drain off, put it back on the saucer. In a couple hours, you want to check that though. If there's water still sitting in that saucer, you want to get rid of that water because you don't want your plants sitting in that water. Again, that will just rot those roots. You want to make sure that you give your plants room temperature water. You don't want to shock them with cold water. So make sure your water is room temperature. Humidity. Humidity is another thing to think about in the winter with your plants. In the winter, our homes are about 10 to 20% humidity, and plants like it to be about 50% humidity. There are different ways that you can add humidity to the air for your plants. If you have a humidifier, your plants would love to be around that humidifier. The other thing, you can take a tray, put some rocks in the bottom, and then put water in the tray. Set your plants on top of those rocks. You don't want the pots in the water, you just want them up above the water, and they will absorb the moisture from that water. And I don't know if you know this, but plants naturally release moisture and water from their leaves when they're transpiring. So a good thing to do is have your plants all together. We actually have all of ours pretty close together just because that's the best place for them. We have one area and they all kind of sit together. We have a couple larger ones throughout the room. But if they're together, when those leaves transpire, the other plants will benefit from that moisture coming off of the leaves of the plants. Again, when you water your plants, make sure you don't use cold water. Humidity, you might want to mist your plants. Again, don't mist them with cold water. You can mist them, but believe it or not, to really benefit from getting mist, you would have to mist your plants several times a day. So just misting them once is just giving them a blast of moisture right then and there. It's not really doing anything to prolong the moisture for them. So don't feel like you need to mist your plants. You really don't need to. Temperature. The temperature in your house, the plants like it between 65 and 75. At night, no lower than 55. You don't want, again, to put your plants too close to the window or they'll get cold and die. You don't want them too close to a heat source. Then they get too warm, they can dry out, and they can even, you could burn them or scorch them. So you don't want to do that. Next, did you know you should put your plants on a diet in the winter? And by that I mean don't fertilize them. Don't fertilize your plants in the winter. They're barely growing. They don't need the fertilizer. You can repot some plants in the winter. You don't want to repot most of your plants. If you have woody plants that are going to be blooming in the spring, those you can repot in the winter. Otherwise, don't bother fertilizing or repotting your plants. Prune your plants? Yes, please prune your plants. Make sure you keep all the dead leaves off. You can also watch for pests. In the winter when the heat is on, the little bugs that get into our plants, they're more prevalent because they like that warmer temperature. Some of the pests that you want to look out for are spider mites, fungus gnats, and mealybugs. And I will say I've seen a few little gnats flying around my plants. So I'm going to keep an eye on that. So far the plants are all doing fine, so I don't know what they are and I'm not going to worry about it at this point. Everything's thriving except for the plant that I overwatered, my succulent. It's not thriving. You're probably wondering, well, why even bother having plants? Well, plants make you feel better. And they have said that people who suffer from the SAD, seasonal affective disorder, that having plants makes you feel better. And just the act of having something to care for can make you feel better. And let's face it, the days are long and cold and dark, and it's nice to have some things growing in your house during the winter. So you might be wondering, what are some of the plants that are easiest to take care of? Well, let me read you a list because there are quite a few of them, and I have some of them here that I can show you. First of all, behind me here, this is an umbrella tree. This thing I have had for 5.5 years, and all I've ever done with it is I repotted it once and I water it and give it plenty of sunshine. I haven't even fertilized it. It just keeps growing. And even this winter, it's got new little blooms and shoots on it, which is so exciting. So I've had that for 5.5 years, and I've hardly had to do anything. So guess what? An umbrella tree is a really easy plant to take care of. Another one is an aloe plant. This big plant I have here is an aloe plant. And again, this one I've had to do very little to it. Let me read you some others. Another one I know is African violet, and I have that one here. I've had this African violet for about 10 years, and he's really happy. I just water him. I've repotted him a couple times, and I think this spring he's going to need to be repotted again. And he blooms, beautiful blooms. It's so nice to look over when it starts to bloom in the spring and see these beautiful purple flowers on the African violet. Let me read you a list of others. Cactus, and we do have a cactus in the corner over here, and again, he's my husband's plant, and we water him very rarely, and he has grown very tall. Cactus, aloe plants, spider plant, English ivy, jade plant, the rubber tree that I have hiding behind me, dumb cane, also called Dieffenbachia, peace lily, snake plant, philodendron, ficus plant, fiddle leaf fig tree, pothos, Chinese money plant, Chinese evergreen, ZZ plant, cast iron plant, air plants, and African violet. And those are just to name a few. There are many others. We actually have a lemon tree that we've had for about 22 years, and that thing has just held on. In the summer, we take it outside so that it gets the rainwater and the really strong sunshine. But otherwise, we haven't done anything to it. We haven't even repotted it, and it just keeps growing really well. So you want to just look out for some plants. Find some plants that you can grow easily, that take very little care, and you will get a lot of reward from that. Now, if you need some more ideas, come to the library. We've got some great books on plants. This one is called The Unexpected Houseplant, and it has 220 different choices for you to find for your home and for different nooks and crannies in your house of where to put flowers. Did you know that ferns do really well in the bathroom? I didn't know that until I started reading up on plants, and now I'm thinking I need to get a fern for our bathroom. Here's another book we have called Decorating with Plants. This one's really nice because it goes room by room and breaks it down to smaller plants, larger plants. So this is another one that's really good, Decorating with Plants. And it too tells you, it says decorating with plants, what to choose, ways to style, and how to make them thrive. That's the important thing, is to keep them thriving. So again, remember, your plants need a lot of sunlight in the winter. They don't need as much water. They need some humidity. You want to monitor the temperature, and you put them on a diet. No fertilizing in the winter. So that wraps up our program on our taking care of our houseplants in winter. I hope that you got some good tips, and please come to the library, check out some books, and experiment with some plants. See what you can come up with that grows well in your home. Thanks for joining me.